The organic human. As I pondered titling this webinar, this opportunity to come together and expand and heal us all, I knew I was going to use those two words, organic and human, in the title. And I went round and round with all the different versions. I considered return of the organic human, but that wasn't quite right. Because whatever is happening is deeper and more connected than a simple return to what we were, what we ever were. I considered manifesting of the organic human. And that works, but it's not a manifestation out of thin air or any sort of new idea. I considered reclamation of the organic human, and there's truth to this phrase for sure, but it's bigger than a reclaiming because again, it's newer. It's newer than it was. I considered expansion or of the organic human, and this one is very close to, but we have been expanding. There's nothing new about that. But there is something new about this moment in time. It's bigger than that. Whatever this is so big, I feel like the marrow of my bones is vibrating. I, I don't know that I've ever felt this sort of energy in my physical form ever. So I thought then again about becoming the organic human. And again, this is close, but it's bigger than that because there's some of what we're doing is reclaiming some of what our organic humanness used to be, but it's bigger than that. And as I stumbled all over these words, I felt that they were failing me. It was hard to come up with words to convey how critically important it is, I feel, to come together in this now moment. I mean, really, this day. I don't know. This day is important in a lot of ways. Today is my daddy's 91st birthday. So there's that. That reaches through time and ancestral lines to be important to me. But it's also, it's 2 days before the anniversary of 9/11, a very pivotal moment in our history. And there's something about that that is poised for us to shift course again. And so many of us face these moments, these now moments or life. I know many of you, some of my dear friends who I know are here right now on this call, feel quite alone where they are in life or what's going on with them. And I have many of my own moments where I'm by myself as well. And we could face this now moment alone. But I believe so strongly from the depths of my soul and from the inner workings of my cellular structure, my body, something about my body, my physical form knows that coming together in this moment, these crucial, critical moments of this phase in our human history with other humans is just simply monumentally important. And I know that it can powerfully affect outcomes. And there's the positivity for you. I really do believe that it all works out in the end. It will, it has to. I believe that absolutely. But I don't know that any of us knows how it's going to look, how long it's going to take, or what's going to happen in between time. But I do know that coming together like this can powerfully affect outcomes. So, my plan today is to connect to the dreamtime energies that have engulfed my sleeping hours. And this morning, I connected to the natural elements on my walk and the beings that I interact with during every day. And I want to share them with you now during our time together to lift our spirits, to release misaligned energies and control programs. That's a big one for me. I'm not interested in being controlled. And that might, right there, might really fully describe what it's meant by acknowledging and becoming the organic human. And I know there are many of us doing this now, many teachers and way showers, colleagues and friends. And I do bless you all for this. It feels important, the things I want to say right now, catch in my throat or not. God bless you all for coming together to navigate these challenges that we face. I awoke last night from a full night of many different kinds of dreams. I opened my eyes, it's still dark outside. First thing I think about really is coffee and dad. So I get up, I get the coffee going, and I go check on my dad and give him a pat on the shoulder. Happy birthday, sleepy dad. Today you're 91. All the kitties wanted feeding, but I ignored them. Coffee made, laptop on. For me, I can go back to the theta state in that moment if I'm left with enough peace. For me, it's easy to return to maintain this theta state early in the morning before there's any hint of light. But not often before our rooster crows. And I could hear him outside right now as I write these notes. I feel my team gather, but the group is larger than most days because today I intend to connect with friends about now and what is coming. And so I am connecting to their teams, to your teams. They're coming in as well. The group seems rather large. In some ways, even though I've just completed my 6th decade as a human, today, this morning for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it almost feels like much of my life has been a sort of practice or preparation for now. I'm reminded at this moment of standing on a high dive for the first time, knowing I'm going to jump off, knowing I'm going to be okay, but knowing that that's going to be the longest free fall I've ever experienced. And I think I was 7 when I did that. I think that's what it feels like in my bones right now. I can feel the importance of this moment in time, and I can't yet describe the edges or the shape of the presentation of this importance or of this moment, but nonetheless, it's there. And after that, the thoughts arise next from my analyzing conscious mind. Didn't think I had one? Oh, yeah, I do. Of course, I do. And here's where mine goes. And so, who are you to announce or request this gathering of friends? some of whom, most of whom, perhaps, I would not even recognize should they walk past you in the street. With the importance of this moment, why you? But the answer to this, my conscious mind inquiry, is easy and swift because I myself need this connection. My soul does. My soul needs to connect with other humans. And as a member of the human community, it is absolutely required for my own well-being. And I'm confident our time together today and in the recording will also benefit the well-being of others. That's why it felt pretty settled to go through that. The basic premise of what I have in mind to do with you today is to connect with you to help us all amplify what is powerfully organic and purely human energy at this time. Without control agendas, without programs, without interference. I want this, I need this. And I have it in my mind to do this in a very simple way. When I pondered how to do this, how best to do this, the answer was obvious and again, very simple. I feel my best. I feel most human and most real when I'm outside. That's why I live out here. When I'm outside in the elements, in nature, whether it's as simple as with my feet on the ground or wading in the creek or riding a horse, this is when my beingness is rejuvenated and realigned and remembers who I am. And this is when I feel the most real. And I know that I'm lucky, but I've worked my whole life to live this way. I wanted to live this way since I was a teenager, and I kind of did back then in the outskirts and the suburbs with my nuclear family. But I always wanted to live on the piece of the prairie. And it took a long time to manifest this. But I want to share this with you today. Now, if this was a gathering in real life, it would go a different way, that's for sure. I would have all of you walk with me outside. We would directly and physically commune with the earth, the elementals, the animals, in the beautiful and sweet, soft September air. Not today, though. Not today. We're not going to do it in the physical today. But we need to do this today in the way that we can through technology. And as I mentioned briefly, it's easy to imagine this form of communication simply vaporizing. It wouldn't take much, truly. It's happened before. It could happen at any time again. I am intending to stand on a timeline where this does not occur. But I'm a realist and I understand it absolutely could. Where would you be? Where would I be without this form of connection? Some of what I wish to address today is to give you an alternative way to slot in, to connect in. At least to feel that there are others out there thinking the same thing. Even if you cannot hear my words or other words from friends and loved ones. I would love all of you listening to be here now on the farm in your organic human form in your body. But that's not what we are left with as a choice today. And I'm very grateful for this technology, for the way that we're connecting today. It is a gift to be using these devices to do so, this machine, this web of connection we call the internet. And yet this gift, this interface has another side to it. And more on that later. So to prepare for this event today, I took myself outside early in the morning, daybreak, by the time I put my shoes on. First doing all the regular farm chores, preparing Dad's breakfast, feeding all the animals. And then I took the four-wheeler to the south of the property and I walked. I walked by myself, but I walked and listened for us all. And I took some small videos here and there. And if you are watching this recorded version, or if you have your eyes open for that, those are the images, likely in slow motion, that you are watching now. But please know that these images are only placeholders. Your own closed eyes may provide more, much more, than what appears on your flickering screen. I carried my citrine quartz stone in my pocket. This was to amplify both my and your imagination and creative and solar plexus energy, to assist in connection, to absorb all of these energies and power them up for us all to accept and benefit by. As I walked into the garage and climbed into the four-wheeler, I felt the elemental spokesman of the farm climb in with me. A short-statured elf-like being, his name is Alvin. I first met Alvin as he stood in our coat closet. I met him during preparation for a quantum healing session of my own with a beautiful practitioner named Alice Mixer. I laughed and laughed when I saw him for the first time. I laughed with joy. He was just pure joy then and now. He sat on the seat next to me and grinned. I backed the four-wheeler out of the garage, but I promptly stopped and turned off the engine. I didn't get very far. My eyes trained on and connected with the massive sunflowers that are growing on the east side of our house. And this is where I took the photo that I used to announce this event. These sunflowers replant themselves every year now. There's such a mass of them. They're out of control, they're outrageous, they're glorious, and I love them. I think of sunflowers a lot. They tend to bloom near just after my August birthday, and they are, of course, the state flower of Kansas. They also represent to me the yellow flower that Dolores Cannon mentions in her quantum healing hypnosis induction script. They also represent to me the power of the sun, our solar plexus energy. And for me personally, they represent the energy of miraculous manifestation. I often tell the story of the cold early March day in 2010 that I lay in the hayfield south of this house. Forgive me to those who've heard this story before and maybe multiple times before. I'll be brief. I was with the realtor who was showing me the property again for the fourth, maybe the fifth time, I don't know, deciding on whether or not to make an offer on the farm. I got out of his truck and I laid in the cold brown winter grass of that field and I asked for a sign from God, from Source. And what I received after a few minutes of contemplation and waiting was a miracle as wonderful as any of those I have ever witnessed in my life. Sitting up from that short time of laying flat on my back, I saw a blooming, beautiful blooming sunflower that it instantly manifested itself at the toe of my right boot. It was small, but it was real and alive, and it absolutely was not there when I laid down. A late summer, sun-loving single sunflower blooming by my foot on the cold winter prairie, a full 5 or 6 months before any shoots of flowers of this type are even seen to push themselves up from the ground. I knew immediately, of course, that this was a sign to call this little part of the prairie home. But this place and the events that have taken place here has become more than that. It's more than just for me. There's a confluence of energy here that's incredibly unique. And these energies are not just for me or my family. I know I'm part of the conducting energy to share them with others, to share them with you. And that's what I want to do today, too. So I take a little video, and that memory ends. And I climb back in the four-wheeler and head towards the barn. And as I approach the barn, I consider riding Rio down to the creek, which is my destination. But I have my coffee and I have my laptop. And it's my plan to write while I'm down at the creek. And I could have probably pretty easily have put the laptop in a backpack and ridden down there on my horse. Maybe Alvin would have gotten on back. But the coffee was more problematic. And I wanted my coffee. So I thought, well, I'll let the horses out. So I turn off the four-wheel again and I stop briefly outside of the barn thinking of the swallows. And as I do, one lone swallow announces her presence and circles my head. My husband, Tom, declared a few days ago, all the swallows are gone. I wasn't so sure when he said that. And as the one swallow was sending her greetings, I was thinking of the day before. So this is a memory now. I was standing in the same place looking for them. And they came in force. It was like looking up in the sky was an invitation for them to arrive. It was like 3 intersecting flocks of them. It was dusk. And as I was marveling at what I was watching, I thought an observer might say they're simply reacting to the mosquitoes that might be coming near my body, but I sure don't think so. The choreography, the dance, and the air just above my head didn't seem like feeding energy to me at all. It was like they were dancing on a stage just for me. The experience didn't last more than 4 or 5 minutes, but I was completely mesmerized. They've really never done this before in all the years I've ever interacted with them. The artist in me attempted to trace their flight path into pattern so I could keep it and recreate it at some point. I couldn't hope to keep up with that. Although I do bet some sacred geometry would have been seen. The swallows hadn't been near the house for days. And I'm sure that's why Tom said they were gone. No way were they gone. Not yet, not completely. I happened to look back at Alvin at that moment. He was shaking his head. He knew too. In the memory of those patterns that they flew above me, I recalled all the events of the summer. Little Anna, the swallow that came back from the brink of death only to leave inexplicably. Rescuing the trapped baby after finding the first trapped baby, wondering was that a timeline shift or a second one? How many of the swallows descended upon our farm this year? Far, far more than ever before. It was like an army of swallows. The lone swallow swooped down, kind of did one more circle and flew off. Seemed kind of like it might have been the final goodbye. The avian collective invites me and invites you as well to interact with these bird energies. Swallows, in particular, enjoy humans. It's not just their house structures that attract them to our world, they want interaction with us too. The avians are very, very close. And as I say that, I see two hawks come down from the elm tree line and land on the horse paddock fence. First one, then the second alights, and they look towards the south, the direction that I'll be going. The avians continue to talk about the swallows. They suggest the energy of gliding, effortless flight through life is something that you can pay attention to. And when you feel restricted, trapped, heavy, imagine the swooping, fluid, slippery flight of a swallow, threading precise patterns of creation in the air. You'll feel better. I know I do when I do this. And then it's time to enter the barn. I look back to Alvin, wondering if he wants to come with me to say hi to the horses. And he lifts his chin as if to say, "You do this part without me." So I walk into the barn. Time to say good morning to my beautiful, beautiful horses. And although it's been more than a year since my lovely mare, Mama Belle, has passed once again, I feel a quick pang in my belly when I acknowledge the lack of her physical presence in the barn. But there's Harris and Rio and Lunabelle and Elvis. They all acknowledge my entry into the barn. They're content and a little bit sleepy. And Rio especially is sleepy and has wood shavings stuck to his coat. Rio is the oldest in the bunch. He's the blue-eyed paint gelding, the biggest one. He sleeps longer and harder than the others. And I walk through the boys' stall to open the gate to the big pasture. And they all follow me, rubbing their heads. And Elvis, always at the end, staying the longest, always the last to leave me. Equines are such incredible creatures. When they are near humans, they can be like mirrors. Your energy affects them. You can often transfer your own fears or anxiety upon them or have them react to that or reflect that back to you. The more steady or wise ones, or the ones you can open up neutrally for, can help you ground and interface directly with the planet. And that's what my horses do for me. No hoof, no horse is an old, old horseman's saying. I find it an easy reminder that we too need our connection with the actual ground of the planet. And I believe one of the reasons it feels so good to ride a horse is because that grounding, healing energy is transferred through their hooves and legs and energy system straight into your own body as it sits atop this magnificent creature. My gelding weighs 10 times what I weigh and could easily hurt me or end my life. And yet he trusts me and he allows me to take charge of both of our bodies, and he does his level best to take care of me. Amazing thing that. for any horse, really, but this one is now 23 years old and pretty much completely deaf, and his eyesight is terrible. But we still ride the farm safe in our mutual trust. From the horses comes a message of trust in a bigger way, and also adaptability to the conditions at hand. Horses 100% live in the now moment. Both the horse and the wise horseman know that forcing control from either upon the other isn't going to typically turn out well. Cooperation and communication is the only way forward. I leave the horses to pasture and continue their 100% equine-ness. Back to Alvin and the four-wheeler as I take myself down the old tree line, past the place of the manifesting sunflower of 10 years ago, down towards the creek, where I eventually park and walk and sit. And as I collect these thoughts and put them down into words, sitting here near the creek and with the laptop, I am deeply aware of the contrast. Nature, all of nature, and me and my laptop. Sometimes I think I should write with pen and paper, and I do this a bit, mostly for notes, but the flow comes out of my head and into my hands more swiftly and completely using a keyboard. So I sit here with this machine and write, thinking again how I wish all of you were here with me now in person, even as I feel you in spirit. But we are not left with having you here in person as a choice. And again, I think about technology and the gift of using these devices, the machines. And as I ponder these words to form an idea to describe the polarity of nature and technology, from my right-hand side, just as I form this thought, comes a powerful, bellowing warning snort of a beautiful white-tailed buck. And that's exactly the energy of which I am searching for words. The buck remains far enough from me and obscured by the underbrush that I cannot see exactly how many points he has, but he's a big, big boy. He's been around. He's been through numerous winters and navigated the roaming predators in the area. He is healthy. He is nimble. He is aware. And this energy is important to convey to you here today and in this now moment. And his message is very, very clear. Do not be complacent. Pay attention. Pay attention. As my body erupts in goosebumps and waves of energy, I want you to know and understand that I am not saying to live in fear. No way. I refuse to live in fear. And yet I am still in a physical form. I am still affected by physical forces. My promise to you, to my ancestors, and to my soul is that I will do my level best to remain sovereign in a world that seems to be insisting that I hand my sovereignty to another human or non-human system. That is just not going to happen. I do not know what's going to happen exactly, but I do know I'm not going to roll over and show my underbelly. I'm not handing over my sovereignty. To do this would be to negate some, all of my original life force energy. I'm not going to give anyone or any system power over me. Perhaps you feel the same. I watch with some wonder and awe at some of my friends or colleagues who seem to live mostly, if not completely, in the realm of 5D. Little to no worries or fear or concern of worldly events, or at least that's what they seem to communicate. And heck, I stand in that world too. How could I not, doing the work that I do, especially during quantum healing sessions, especially at night? Of course I do. But as my dear friend Patricia Corey said recently, I am in love with this earth. And I'm in love with her too. And I'm in love with the animals that live here and that I interact with. And that makes me a very physical being. So I draw my line in the sand here over my sovereignty. I will not comply. I would rather die. And I know the choice that I'm making is cleaving for many, myself included. For others who've made a different choice, maybe even you've made a different choice. Or maybe you're choosing back again. I have no idea. But things are changing. Paths are being chosen. And as I type these words, the wind picks up noticeably and the energy shifts again. And I'm crying huge, huge tears. I will not comply. I would rather die. As these words come out of my energy and my fingers onto the keyboard, improbable as it might seem, because it's practically midday, the sun overhead, a beautiful barred owl flies down from the trees, flies and glides 5 feet in front of me at my eye level, and makes a cooing kind of noise, a very quiet cooing kind of noise that I've never heard from my life from an owl. I sat in stunned silence for a while. Something about owl interactions, especially those that happen in the middle of the day, they are so incredibly sacred. But I thank the avians for sending the barred owl, right as I intend to stay connected with the natural world and think about these concepts to share them with you. And I ponder it all. I ponder the blurring between my humanity and nature. I ponder the lines between choice of compliance and freedom. I ponder the lines between life and death and find myself thinking, what do we do now to become more organically, purely human? Last night before sleep, I asked to dream a dream to share with you all today, and I had many, many dreams. I took notes. But I was taken to a place on my farm in one of these dreams that does not currently exist. And interestingly enough, it was cold. It was cold where we went. I mean, the place on the prairie does exist. There's like this swale, there's this little indentation in the field. It's a really beautiful place. While sitting down in there, you can turn 360 and not see anything man-made. I mean, there's more than one place like that on the farm, but this place is really beautiful and unique. But I was in that swale, in that part of the field, facing this standing rock boulder, really. Big standing stone. That stone doesn't stand there. It's funny, I can hear Dolores laughing right now. Oh, it's there, she says. She's saying to me now, you just can't actually see it. Maybe it's underground, or maybe it's deep, deep underground. But in my dream, I found myself standing with my back against this stone, wanting to call in the energies of clearing and healing. And that's what I'd like to do now. So imagine, if you will, that you are with me in this beautiful place on my beautiful farm with the sweet, sweet smell of the fall grasses, the gentle, warm wind. Standing near this stone as we gather here now in this very safe and sacred place. And I invite all of you, and I invite all of your guides, and I invite all of your angels, and I invite all of your cosmic and soul family. And I invite your higher self and my higher self. And I invite us all as ascended masters from the future to join us in this healing transmission of energy today. I ask now that we connect to the great and beautiful central sun, the source of source, the beginnings of it all, knowing the place where we all come from is the same. And connecting to that divine spark of light that moves through time and space. And through our intention to connect with it, we make the connection happen. Knowing that we are of spirit, knowing that we ourselves are part of this God source energy, manifest in physical and human form. I ask that this energy connect with all of us who've gathered here today, to clear all the binding programs still left within us. These programs that no longer align, no longer manifest health or happiness, divine potential. I asked and I ask for this energy as it's connecting through to our human form to help dissipate all that is not of pure truth, all misqualified energies, all available trauma programs able to be released at this time, retaining all of the wisdom that we've learned from all of the tribulations, sufferings of the past. I ask that this light embolden us, energize us, and give us strength to continue walking forward in the future that truly feels like, for me, being 7 years old and standing at the edge of the high dive for the first time. Having some of this energy energized within our body can help us connect to the spirits who wish to support us, including the avians, including other elements in the physical world. And as we feel these energies wash over us and through us, take a moment, if you will, and feel yourself reaching back into your ancestral line, your family tree, even if you don't know the stories of it. Even if you only have a small hint of these stories, reaching through your ancestral line, knowing that there are stories, there are lessons, there's wisdom for you there in this now moment. Humans have gone through trials and tribulations before, and often their lessons come too late to change things. I ask that our ancestors step forward now and help us embody the wisdom of lessons that were learned before us so that we may make use of them now for the betterment of all. Imagine all those other lives that you've lived, whether they be on this planet or not, and all of the lessons and wisdom that your own aspects have gleaned, all those other experiences as well. Those experiences are available to you now. I truly believe that. Some call this the collapsing of timelines. I call it becoming multidimensional. I believe there's nothing more powerful on this planet than the truly organic, original life force energy human. I believe that with all of my heart. Anything else is a false construct, sometimes a very clever one, dressed up in pretty bows and promises. But with wisdom and with love and compassion for all of our fellow human, we can set that aside and become truly the magnificent beings that we are meant to become. When it comes time to make that leap, you know, think of your friends who are aligned today, who are aligned in the same way. Those of you who send love and support to each other, fly free on their energy too, you know, on all of it, on the part of you that's God, on the ancestors, on your other aspects, on the brave, brave human souls who are here today, having agreed to experience this. I used to wonder about my mother and my father, both of whom lived through wartime. My mother, most notably, during the Second World War, my father, most notably, in Vietnam. And I used to wonder how I would conduct myself, how I would communicate and navigate my life in the world should I find myself in a similar situation. Well, the way I want to do that, whether you see a conflict or an opportunity manifesting itself in front of us, and I see a little of both, to be quite honest. I want to do that by remaining connected to you and your energy. You beautiful people with your great big hearts who've connected with me today and in the future. Thank you so much. I hope this has been helpful for you, healing, encouraging, and positive. And at the same time, I hope it helps you keep your feet solidly on the ground and with your eyes wide open to what's happening around you. You are powerful and you are loved. And never forget, you are a part of God. And nothing can ever, ever change that.